Welcome to the Varsity Voices podcast, where every week we bring you the inside information and insight on Chicago Catholic League football. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and like us on wherever you're listening from. You can also find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search for the Varsity Voices Chicago Catholic League Sports. And also feel free to leave us a comment on wherever you're listening from, or if you prefer to email us, you can do that at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. I'm Joe Frevaletti, and here with me is my co-host Dan Frevaletti. And Dan, let's see, how many days out now? We're 3 days out from Friday Night Blitz, right?
3 days. That's it. That's it. It's coming fast and furious.
Fast and furious.
Ready or not.
Ready or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a bit of an update on the Friday Night Blitz. So we've been talking about streaming live, or the podcast will be live and it'll be streaming to various social media. Primarily what we want to say here is that we're going to be streaming to primarily X for week one. X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. We are going to, in future Friday Night Blitz episodes, we'll probably add more, like Facebook, Instagram, what else? We're talking about YouTube, so you'll be able to catch us there too. But for week one, most likely just X at this point. So that's where you're going to want to tune in.
We're being vetted, right, by the others. Is that
we are?
That's the case. Yeah, they got to make sure we're legit.
Yeah, they think we're going to say something that maybe we shouldn't say or whatever it might be, but X doesn't care, so that's good.
Yeah, they don't care. It's the wild, wild west on X.
It is the wild, wild west, and that's the way we want it to be, especially
right.
with our podcast. So, Dan, this episode let's say this first. The previous episode we looked at the white, red, and purple divisions, and we made some predictions for each of those divisions, and also talked about some of the key players that are part of each of those divisions. Today, Dan, this episode we're going to talk about the orange, blue, and green. So, that's obviously everybody talks about the blue division, right?
They get a lot of pub.
Yep. They get a lot of pub. And why do they get a lot of pub? Yeah.
Big schools with great players, right? And state championships all over the place. So and a lot of picks to repeat. That's how things go with the blue division, and they're all obviously, in close proximity to major media market right next to or in Chicago. So it is it's easy to see why they get they've earned it, first and foremost, they've earned it. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun to talk about all the divisions. They're all super competitive. The red, white, and purple that we've done already, those are great divisions. We both said how much we really like the white division and how that's going to play out this year.
Right.
Same goes for the blue, orange, and green. And so it'll be good to make some predictions. I don't know if either of us will step out. Well, we haven't talked about it, but it'll be it's fun to talk about the players and look at the seasons for these divisions.
Yeah, we talked about whether there was going to be any kind of surprise picks, and it's really hard to say any pick in any of the divisions would be a surprise, right? Because we've talked about that. You can look at the 4 teams in each of the 6 divisions and say, you know what, there's a case to be made for each one of them.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, it's incredible, really, that how competitive this is. I think it's going to be a stellar year in the Catholic League. I think there are going to be some great football games. I think, I'd say it throughout the podcast that, I don't know that anyone will go unscathed through their division or through the Catholic League. So it's going to be really interesting and fun to watch.
Absolutely, and we're going to be watching Friday night. So make sure you come and watch with us and tune into our live broadcast on Friday Night Blitz or a live podcast, and get the latest on scores and other information, any updates on the games as well as players, highlights, those kinds of things. So make sure you tune in. So
Tune in and help us out. Join in. Comment.
In.
Send
Right.
us notes on X and be a part of the broadcast. If you want to get in there and chat, you don't have to come on, but you can use the chat feature and update us and let us know what's happening at the games. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, just be a part of the audience
Right.
if you don't want to actually join us, right? And we'll post the audience link on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. So, you can just click the link and you're in. You're an audience member, and you can just sit there and listen, or you can use the chat feature, which will be right there. And you can send us messages if you want to give us updates, whatever it might be. So there's multiple ways for people to be involved, and I think the more people involved, the more fun it'll be, Dan.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
All right, so let's get to the next three divisions, and we will go through our predictions for each and some of the key players.
All right. Which one's next, Joe?
How about Orange?
Orange. Okay.
We've got Marist. We've got Joliet Catholic. We've got Providence. And we've got Notre Dame.
All right.
Yeah.
So, this is, gosh, does it ever get – there's just not one division that's like, oh, yeah, this division's easy to pick.
Right. Yeah. And,
I think we're going to be different on this one, though, Joe.
I
have a feeling. Yes, I went a little off chalk on this. Okay. I think I did. So, I mean, if you look at these teams, starting with Joliet Catholic, always could be a perennial favorite. But again, a lot of these teams, you're looking at some new quarterbacks. You've got some quarterback battles happening there. Joliet Catholic's going to be breaking in a new quarterback. But the thing about Joliet Catholic, so good where it matters. They bring back Nick Bueno and Daniel Rouse at both at linebackers. And what else? What else would you expect at JCA but having stud linebackers, coming back?
Yep.
But I think the real strength of the team is the offensive line. Jake Jakovich and Cameron Jurisic and Michael Lynch, they've got a lot of experience on that offensive line, which is so key at every school, right? But Joliet Catholic, it just seems like it is so common but so important. It's one of the reasons they've been so good. Their strength training is always off the charts, and I think they can lean on an offensive line to control the football, to help out their defense if the defense needs some help and get them a lot of rest. So they're going to be pretty formidable again, just like you'd expect.
Yeah, and another team here, Providence, right?
Yep.
Again, we saw them. We saw their lower level play last year, right?
Right.
We saw them up close and personal,
right?
And they've got some real talent, younger talent that's coming up, and now going to be with varsity. But even their varsity level last year was talented and young, right? So I think Providence is going to be a handful. They've got a couple of all conference, all division players coming back, and Luke Leverett, their cornerback, Xavier Coleman, be huge. Their wide receiver and kick returner as well. Pretty electric player there. But some of the players stepping up, especially on the offensive line. I think they mentioned Bryce Tenza, offensive lineman. So Providence is on the rise here. Not that they're a secret to anybody out there, but what I like about them is, young players who have had some success and are growing within the program are really, will come to fruition this year, I think, at the varsity level.
Yeah, and I don't know if you mentioned Gavin Hagan. He's a stud returner, all division player. He's all over the field. Never comes off the field. A star on offense, a star on defense, a star in special teams. He's just a guy that makes it happen. And like you said, we saw some of their lower levels. They were big, they were fast. They had a great mix of athletes and big guys who are athletes. And so,
right.
Yeah. It looks to me like, they're a contender for a state championship this year. I think it should be really interesting watching Providence, from the get-go. It'll be fun to watch how their season plays out.
Yeah. And Notre Dame, another team in there, always tough, right? Teams that have to go into Notre Dame and play them there on their home field, it's always a battle. They've only got one returning player, I think, who is all conference in their Ryder Rea, who's a defensive back, wide receiver. But, there's some other players that, you really have to keep an eye out for, like Luke Olson, who's one of the wide receivers, Scott Cook on the offensive line. You got Dan Sherry, one of the linebackers, and Peter Reichel, another offensive lineman. So I think Notre Dame, is hoping that maybe, even though every time you go in there and play them, it's really tough. It's always a tough game against Notre Dame, but I think they're hoping to surprise some people this year, Dan.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, they're one of the teams that at least as we record this hadn't decided on a quarterback yet. So George Savage is a senior, Luke Dickey is a junior. Whether they split time or they come out with one, will be interesting to watch and probably have an effect. They're going to share carries at running back, so their offense will be something to watch. I know they really want to try and improve on their offensive performance from last year. So we'll see how in some of those key positions it plays out.
Yeah, and the last team in the division is Marist, right? So it doesn't get any easier.
No. Yeah. Another. You have a lot of great home fields in this division. I love Notre Dame just like you. It's we talked about that before, but I think Marist is the toughest place to play. I think that is at least the one where I've been to, just because it feels like the students are right on top of you. If things aren't going well, your own fans are right on top of you, so you can hear every bad comment that a fan, parent, or someone makes if they don't like what you're doing. So it's always packed. It's a great field. Yeah, but they've got the players to back it up. They're going to be led by Brad Fitzgibbon. Offensive line, defensive line. I don't know if he'll do both. They've got so many players. They probably don't have a ton of two-way guys. Maybe only in critical series will they do that. But he's an Iowa commit. Jacob Ritter is a transfer quarterback from Lincoln Way East. So they have Lincoln Way East, obviously great talent. Tremendous program, wins a ton of games, state champions in their own right, and. So it'll be interesting to see how someone who has come up through that program fits, in the Catholic League. And then we haven't even mentioned, John McAuliffe, the running back, all conference player from last year.
Yep.
Guy they can lean on. They have a massive offensive line. They've got some really big people. So Marist will be really interesting to watch this year. Didn't make the playoffs last year. Could have been one of the better teams that didn't make the playoffs. New head coach who's had a ton of success at York, but kind of came up through Marist. So they, I'm expecting big things from Marist. I'm expecting like a bounce back, year
from them.
Yep, I am.
Is that your pick then for this division?
Yes, my first kind of out of the box, I think off chalk, I'll say it, prediction is Marist. I like what they have returning. They've got a ton of returners. I kind of went by your theory of returning starters, and
Right.
they've got a lot. I think their coach is great. I think he's used to winning now from York and at Marist previous to that. So my pick in a really, really tough division, again, where there's a couple teams that can probably, you could make this pick and be what you call safe. But I'm going to go with Marist in this division.
All right. Well, yeah, here's where we're going to differ. I'm going to go with, Joliet Catholic. I just think they probably got too much, and they're always right there. And, I always listen to you, Dan, as a former coach, and, you're always looking at, who's on their offensive line, right?
Yep.
And
it's a big deal.
You just said it. Joliet Catholic trots out these offensive linemen year after year that can just move people and, move that line of scrimmage. And I think they're going to be too tough to handle for the other teams in the division. Now, I do think it's going to be, like we said, it could be a toss up, or it wouldn't be a surprise if one of these other teams, Marist, obviously, even, Providence as well. But I've got to go with Joliet Catholic in this division, Dan.
All right. So we differ. Okay. That's good. I think that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. All right.
Yeah. Who do you want to go to next? Should we do the blue?
Yeah, let's do
like
the
we
blue.
Always finish with the blue, but let's change it up a little bit. Let's look at the blue second to last, right? We've got two left.
Right. We've got green and blue left.
All right. Let's look at blue. So obviously, a lot of talent. Big schools with great football programs and a ton of kids. So they're all loaded. Honestly, Joe, right? I mean, you could pick any one, and
for sure.
The easy thing might be to say, okay, Loyola, or some people might say, well, the easy thing is to pick Mount Carmel. Loyola brings back Ryan Fitzgerald, Iowa commit, all division player. Drew McPherson, Iowa commit, all division player. Donovan Robinson, Washington commit. Brandon Loftus, tight end, Miami of Ohio commit. Charlie Daly is linebacker. I watched a little film on Charlie and love the way he plays. Plays exactly how you would coach him. From his pad level to how he shuffles, to how he gets to the sideline, to how he hits people, how he's a sure tackler. I loved watching him on film. But yeah, Loyola has a ton of experience. Also, one of these teams that's got great experience in the right places. They have great lower levels, so they just kind of feed this program year after year after year. They've got great numbers. So Loyola is pretty loaded, but you could also make the case for Mount Carmel as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I do have a quick question for you on Loyola. Any chance you think it could be a bit of a letdown? Have they done everything they possibly could have done so far? Or, I have a feeling the head coach, they're going to come to play for sure. But
I just sometimes don't know if you see that in high school. I know they have a lot of guys back, but I feel like there's enough turnover sometimes where that whole season long letdown. Now, what could get them, Joe? I mean, for sure is the schedule. The schedule is just a bear with, opening with East St. Louis and then Glenbard West before you get into your division games and conference schedule. I mean, that is gutsy, to say the least. And, but obviously they're the school that can do it. They can, I've talked to coaches before who said Loyola can play a national schedule,
right,
and be just fine. So, I know they're prepared for it. So I think any more than like that letdown or like the Super Bowl hangover that you get in the NFL, I don't know that you see that, but I do see a scenario where, you could have 4 losses by 3 points or less,
right,
and be a great team. And that's what gets you more than any sort of, kind of hangover effect from previous couple seasons.
Yeah, but you were talking about Mount Carmel, right?
Yeah.
They've got they've got a bunch of returning players too that are just off the charts. They got their quarterback Jack Elliott, linebacker Matt Moch. Who else? Their defensive back LaJavier Payne. Then some other guys, stepping up. Daniil Taylor, the running back, Lamont Miller on the offensive line, Braden Jones, defensive end. So they're loaded as well.
Yeah, they've got a transfer wide receiver from Neuqua Valley out here by us, and wide receiver Cooper Lehman. And you mentioned Braden Jones. He's another one. I did watch a little film, some highlight film, so that's always something that a coach would want to see, college coach would want to see the whole film. But, I really liked his game. He's an incredible run stuffer. He plays for a tall player. He plays low, great pad level, uses his hands. That's not an easy thing to teach high school kids. They are sometimes weary of throwing their hands in there, but I think I see him being a 3 technique in college. He could put on a lot of weight, but yeah, they're loaded as well. I mean, and as we go down, moving on to Brother Rice, they're kind of a different kind of loaded, right? So they've got some players who are returning from injury. They're kind of headliner and Christian Pierce. And then Tyler Lofton at running back, ISU commit, transfer from Marian Catholic, and Jimmy Maxon, a St. Rita transfer. So,
right.
So they're only all division player returning to them. Now, Tyler Lofton was an all division at Marian Catholic, but Connor Stack, their safety. So they are going to be an interesting team to watch to see how it comes together. And now I think it will. I think it probably the summer it was really important for Brother Rice just to get used to a lot of these new faces that they've added to the program.
Yeah, and those are some big ads, right? As you just mentioned, especially Lofton. Because we know what Brother Rice wants to do on offense, and I'm sure Tyler Lofton is going to help that tremendously.
Yeah, he can help in a lot of different ways. He's one of our favorite players that we watched. We've seen him for a few years now. I love how he runs a football, low center of gravity. Really good. But Christian Pierce is almost like a transfer because they lost him the whole year last year.
Right.
But he is a great explosive sideline to sideline linebacker. In today's mold of linebackers, he jumps off the film and has since he was a sophomore.
Yeah, and that we got one team left here in the blue, and that's St. Ignatius, and we're talking about talent up and down the board on some of these with some of these other teams, and St. Ignatius fits right in with that, Dan.
Yeah, headlined by Jack Wanzong, the quarterback. I think you watched him on film. What do you think of him as a player, Joe?
I really like him as a player. He's a little slight, but I saw this on film, and then Coach Miller confirmed it. The guy can just flat out fly, Dan. I think Coach said he was 200 meter or 100 meter, finalist or last year, so he's a track guy as well, and he's coming back as an all conference player, so you figure he's going to take that next step, plus he knows how to run their offense, and he's going to be really tough for a lot of teams to stop.
Yeah, and if you'd love to have an inexperienced quarterback. You'd like to have one of those freshmen or sophomores who are running the triple option for the first time at a high level. But Jack is experienced, runs it, like he's been doing it out of the crib, and right. And then to have running backs back that are ready to go, like Emmett Callahan. They're really set. on the triple option. They bring 5'9", 305, 305-pound offensive lineman Chris Morris back. All division player. An animal and a guy that their blocking scheme. They will create angles on you, and to have a guy like that can really move people is huge for this.
Yeah.
And defensively, Joe Hayes Muller, the linebacker, I did a little film review on him. I was watching some linebackers today. Really runs really well, explosive to the football. They've got to have critical defense, if they're going to compete and run that offense. They've got to make sure they keep that game tight to play into their strengths. Complementary football for St. Ignatius. So they're prepared to be a really good team this year.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to what our picks are, Dan. Who do you like in the blue? One of the toughest divisions to pick for sure.
Right. I like them all.
Yeah, I like them all. Get that out of the way. Say that up front.
Oh gosh, it's funny. So I made a list, and I was kind of going back and forth, and I moved the list around, I think 3 times.
Yeah.
So, but I ended up back with Loyola as a division winners out here. I think the experience in key positions is going to be the difference. I think they have the great blend of players returning and then high level athletes on both sides of the ball. That's going to carry them to it. They have to be the favorite again, for 8A, the state champion. So
right.
I think it's Loyola in a really tight race.
I think so too. I've got to go with Loyola on this as well. I really wanted to pick St. Ignatius on this, because I've watched a little more film on them than I have on anybody else in this division, and I really like the way they play. But for all the reasons you just said regarding Loyola and the type and caliber of players they have coming back at the key positions after winning. The 8A state title last year. I just think, you can't pick against Loyola this year.
No, I think the same thing. Mount Carmel's going to be great. Brother Rice is going to be really cool to watch, and St. Ignatius is going to be a pain in the neck for everybody. And could beat anyone on any day. You get a bad weather day and you're playing. I mean, I know they run the option, but boy, they can grind it out and make your life miserable.
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
All right. So we end up here with the green division, right? That's the only one we haven't covered so far?
Yeah. So, really, really interesting. So we've got, Nazareth, St. Francis, IC, and St. Rita. Who do you want to start with, Joe?
Let's start with St. Francis.
Okay.
And I'm going to admit here, Dan, I don't know as much about St. Francis as I probably should, right? But I do know they're going to be in the mix, this year.
They're crazy talented.
Talented team every, year in and year out, well coached. They've got a couple of, returning all conference players, and Tyvon Ransom is a running back, which is always key, right? To having somebody on offense
He's
like that
really
coming
good.
back, really good. Zach Washington, their wide receiver. Is this another team who's got a new quarterback, or was Palmer their starter last year?
No, they will have a new quarterback. So Brady Palmer is the likely starter. Jalen Carter is a transfer, and he's a high level. I've heard about Jalen Carter for several years and seen a little bit of film. Know he's a really, really good player. Be interesting to see if they mix that up and give them both some snaps, or if one of them plays somewhere else and the other one takes the bulk of quarterback snaps. So they'll be an interesting one to watch. They've also got a new player who hasn't played football, but he's a high level Division I recruit, and Gavin Muller, the tight end. Got offers from everyone and just playing football in high school for the first time again. So So they'll be really interesting defensively. Liam Kalinsky, great linebacker, along with Ryan Palmieri. So St. Francis, like some of these other schools, they don't have tremendous numbers, but they are incredibly talented. The guys they have, so they're going to be really good football team that has a chance to win a state championship as good as anyone.
Right. Yeah, and speaking about extremely talented players, let's talk about Nazareth. And you can't talk about Nazareth without talking about Gabe Kaminsky, right?
Yeah. He was the best player I saw last year. So I shouldn't say that. I've seen him for a couple of years, and he's been outstanding since the first time he stepped on the field. Almost impossible to block. The interesting thing to see with Gabe is if they will have him primarily as a 5 technique or defensive end, or at linebacker like they did in the state championship. And we know that Coach Racky, really likes him at linebacker, probably sees him there as a college player, but the guy is a football player, right. No doubt about it. Yeah. And like I said, he has a knack for not being blocked like no one I've seen. I mean, he can, when he needs to make himself skinny, he can do that. When he needs to power through someone, he can do that. He's a sure tackler, always around the football, always disruptive. Just one of my favorite players in the conference to watch.
And he's a Stanford commit, right?
Stanford commit. Yep, you're right. So yeah. If you're thinking about academics and college football, and you're in LaGrange Park, or at least that's where you go to high school, come on, go to Northwestern. Jeez.
Right. Come on. It's right down the street.
Solid. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not the only really good player they've got coming back. They've got their quarterback Logan Malachuk, who I'm sure he's expecting big things out of this year.
Yeah, he's throwing for a ton of yards. Great player, super heady. Really a guy I like, the type of player I like at quarterback. Always seems to make the right decision. Has a good arm, and plenty of weapons to throw to. Jimmy Penley at wide receiver. Then they can give the ball or throw the ball to Eddie McLean, running back, experienced guy. Coach Racky plays them young. If they're ready, he plays them. Right. There are no classes at Nazareth, like Coach said. So these guys, they all have a lot of experience. And before you even get to, Garrett Reese, who's an Indiana commit, right? Another D1 kid and a great old lineman, and Sam Steck. And Christian Malachuk at the O-line. So they're loaded. I think they're one of the top, 5 teams in the state, Joe. I don't know if they're getting the respect they deserve.
Yeah.
As good as they are.
Yeah, it's hard to say they fly under the radar, Dan, but maybe it's partly because of the last 2 years, how they've started out. They've started out really slow, right? And then really come on at the end of the year. I think it's going to be key for them not to have that happen again this year. I know Coach Racky doesn't want to try and get into the playoffs again at 4-5.
No, you don't want to be sweating out that night. I mean, and a lot of these guys know how many points they have and what it takes. But it's really would be a lot better position to be in to just say, okay, we're in. And I think Nazareth will be this year. Yeah. I don't think I'll be shocked if they have that concern going or after week 9.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's talk about IC a little bit.
Okay.
Another team you and I saw lower level play last year. So much talent they've got. God, I mean, I remember watching them playing. Every guy they trotted out on the field, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is just as good, if not better, than the last guy they had out there. So
yeah, and big.
I was actually surprised at some of the games they lost last year. Just after seeing them, I mean, I saw the varsity play as well, and they're just extremely talented, and they've got a ton of talent coming back again. They've got one returning all conference player in their linebacker Foley Calcagno, but they've got Chance Williams at wide receiver. They've got another guy, a linebacker, John Goggin, and another one, Dominic Hulak. I feel like their defense is just going to be really tough to score any points against this year.
Yeah, Hulak's an ND commit, so
Yeah.
he's big time. And when I saw them play the varsity play last year, I thought that's one of the most talented teams I've seen. And I know
Yes.
not everyone's back, but I know that's the level they're at now at IC. And they can and should step on the field with anybody and compete. There shouldn't be anyone that they're not a favorite or really close within 3 points when they take the field. So again, another team capable of winning a state championship within this division. It's unbelievable.
It is. And the last team, another capable team, is St. Rita.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, St. Rita. Yeah, like you'd forget about St. Rita, right? It's like
Right.
they are going to be as good as ever, right? They've got some people to replace. They've got some returning DBs, Langston Smith and James Franklin. They've got some names, familiar names. James Kingsbury is a familiar St. Rita name, and then they're all division player Justin Buckner at linebacker. So they're going to be interesting to watch. I think I do think that there's some unknown there with St. Rita, so I'll be interested to see them. This season as a start to kind of see how they start and where they're at, and so they would be one that I'll be paying attention to as in the early part of the season.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So that brings us to the last prediction of the night or of the episode, Dan, for the Green Division. So who do you like here?
I'm going to go with Nazareth. I think that returning talent is going to be a lot, and I do think that they're aware of their starts. I do think that they want to get on top of it. I think they have the ability to overwhelm teams with talent. But that being said, I'll be really interested week 1, and
Right.
against Kankakee, because that's not easy. And but we know that if they do lose, right, they still have the ability to run the table at any point in time, whether
Right.
that starts week 2 or week 10. They can do that. But they're going to be my pick for what will be a close race all year in the Green Division.
Yeah, and they're my pick as well, Dan. So we've agreed on every division except one of them. But
Yeah, 5 out of 6.
Yeah, I just think they've got too much talent on both sides of the ball coming back. Gabe Kaminsky on defense can control a game all by himself. And then with the talent they've got coming back on offense as well, they're just going to be too much, I think, for a lot of teams this year. And even though there's some supremely talented teams within this division, I think Nazareth is kind of rises to the top this year.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I think this and right. We could probably put a bow on this episode by saying every division could be up for grabs, right?
Yes.
Literally as good as Loyola is, right? That division really could be up for grabs. As good as I think Nazareth is, division up for grabs. Providence and Marist, my kind of out there picking Marist. That division's up for grabs. So it's a great conference. It's why we're doing this podcast, to follow this and make people aware and give people a place to come and listen to about these great football programs.
Yeah. So it's going to be an exciting year to watch within the Chicago Catholic League, really within the state of Illinois as well. But as you and I have said several times, we think the Chicago Catholic League is the cream of the crop as far as conferences or leagues go within the state of Illinois.
In the country.
Yeah, really. And I think, there's going to be some great division games. There's going to be some really good out of division games, within the Chicago Catholic League. And there's going to be some great out of conference, games as well. So it's, get ready starting next week or starting on Friday for a great year of high school football, especially in the Chicago Catholic League.
Yeah, Joe, it's well, Friday Night Blitz will be fun, right? That's why we need some correspondence. People want to know.
Yeah.
People want to know what's going on. So help us help you. You know, and we'd love to bring you the information. We're going to do what we can to facilitate that, but let's make it a group effort.
All right, that sounds good. So people reach out to us if you want on social media, or email us, varsityvoices312@gmail.com. Be a part of our Friday Night Blitz episodes. First one coming up on Friday. So that's it for this episode. And thanks for listening. Make sure you tune in for our next episode. We were just talking about that. We'll be live on Friday, August 30th at 9 p.m. with our inaugural Friday Night Blitz episode. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, or like us on wherever you're listening from. You can find us on X, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And like I said earlier, you can leave comments or email us as well. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you come back on Friday and be a part of our next episode.